And we have such a great onshore team that was never an issue. But I think it's more of wanted my team to understand, you are super valuable to this team. You're not behind me, you're next to me, we're all in this together. And I think all of our managers function in that way.
Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share the straight truth on how we have grown our family law practice from 0 to 25 attorneys and $15 million in revenue over the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working with hopes that you can take that and you can recontextualize it for your practice and shorten your success curve. And today is a third part of a 3-part series on building our law firm with international teammates. So in part 1, we talked about the sourcing of these teammates. How do we find them in Mexico? How do we find them in the Philippines? And then we went through all the details around that. And then in the last show, we talked about how do we select them? What's our hiring process look like? And what unique features of that are there that we need to be considerate of whenever we're hiring internationally? And today, Robin and I are going to be talking about, once these teammates come on board with us, how do we manage them? How do we integrate them within our practice? And so we're going to jump through into all of that today. But first, let me give you some context around our practice, our firm, so you can understand the level of integration we have with our international teammates. So as of today, we have 87 teammates across our entire law firm, both here domestically in the US, as well as internationally in Mexico and the Philippines. Of those 87, 27 are international. So it's roughly about a third of our team is working international for us. So that's a really big part of our practice. And so they've become integral, and they're just as important as any other teammate in our practice. And we do our best to treat them as such. So Robin, can you kind of walk us through, once the teammate comes on board, describe the first couple days or weeks of their time with us? And by the way, I introduce you again. I made this mistake in our last podcast. Robin is our director of team growth. She's a frequent guest here with me on the J. Sterling Hughes Show. She leads our HR team that we call Team Growth. She does an exceptional job. She is involved with all aspects of our practice, from obviously our legal team to our support team, and she's a real important part of our leadership team. So Robin, back to you, talking about integrating and that first couple of weeks that someone joins our team internationally.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'm glad to be here again. I love having these conversations. I really enjoy them. So someone's first day. So we hire someone offshore. I'll give you kind of a picture of what that looks like. So we have the day planned for them, and we start sharing this information prior to them starting. So it starts with the basics of getting them the access that they're going to need and getting them set up with an email, a calendar, and all the basic things, and just helping to get them literally on board, so they're connected to everyone. We use Slack. They get access to that, so they're up and running and we can communicate. And then on their first day, they have scheduled times with different people in the firm, depending on what team they're on. So they're going to have their manager, they're going to meet with our systems team, and he's going to make sure that they accepted all their invitations and they have all the access that they need, and see if they have any questions. And they meet with me and my team, and we'll talk about any benefits, like when are we closed, when are we open, time off, what do you do in those instances, how do you get paid? So we're going to have conversations about that as well. And then I just like to make sure that they feel comfortable, feel welcome, and explain to them who they're all going to be talking to, what their roles are, and why. And then also we'll talk to different people in the firm. Sometimes it's you, Jeff. Sometimes it's our president. Their manager is always involved as well, because we want them to know the history of the company, where we were, what we're doing now, and what our vision is for the future. Something that's also really important that I point out to them too is a few things hit their calendar, and those will be our regular check-ins. So we do check-ins with them just as we do every onshore employee. We'll meet with them in 30 days. We'll meet with them in 90 days, and then we'll meet with them on their anniversary just to see how things are going. And then also talking to them about a meeting that will hit their calendar called the Summons, which is a lot of fun. We do that every other week. and they're involved. Everybody's cameras are on, shout outs to everybody, onshore, offshore, it doesn't matter. They're fully involved in everything that we do, the fun that we have, hearing the news all at the same time. So they don't feel like a separate group of people, even though they're in a completely separate part of the world, in a completely separate time zone. And hats off to them for working third shift if they're in the Philippines. Mexico's usually our time, Central time, depending on which side we're on, is winter or summer. But other than that, we want them to feel really a part of our team and experiencing a lot of the same things that our onshore employees are experiencing as well.
Yeah, this was a real important point from a standpoint of integration and helping them feel loved and a part of our culture. So the history around our move in this direction came about 3 years ago as we were having a real difficulty finding teammates here in the US, and that really started to amp up our efforts to look internationally to find qualified individuals to join our team. And we could see that the team was growing. It was like 8 or 9 at that point. And we were getting feedback that they really kind of felt disattached, not connected in some cases with our mission, our values, and our purpose, what we were going after. And so we made a real concerted effort to start to change how we talked about our team, how we invited them in on a lot of our activities and everything. We wanted them to feel just as much a part of our team as anybody in our whole practice. And so that philosophical change really set us in the direction where we are today, where it's seamless. It really is. I mean, you wouldn't know that these teammates are not here in the US unless you came to one of our after hours activities. We have we go to a Brewer game or something like that. We're not going to pay to fly them over for a Brewer game from the Philippines, but pretty much everything else, they're heavily involved and integrated just as much as anyone else. And that's been a real asset to help these teammates feel like they're a part of something and they feel more invested into what we're doing. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. I agree 100%. And that is really the feedback that we got. As I had mentioned, I'm really proud of this, that we do this, because we do get feedback saying I've worked, done this type of work for other places, other companies, and I've never felt so much a part of the company. And I think that that's something really important to focus on too, because in having conversations in these check-ins at 30 days or 90 days, I think a lot of people who are on our offshore team feel inclined like they have to take a back seat, but we don't want them just to be in the back seat. We want them to be, side by side, partnered with all of us. And that's really a new experience. And you can really see the evolution of growth and the evolution of that changing in them as they begin to feel more comfortable. And you can see this, our new hires start to speak up more and relax, and just really, you get to know them a little bit more too. And I think that that's really, really important. I know that's something that I really worked on with my team, because we touch every other team on, team growth or HR. We, support everybody in the company and vendors and things like that. And something that was really important to me is kind of to set them out ahead and just to be recognized as people who are competent and trustworthy and understand confidentiality and those types of things. And I want our employees to feel comfortable in their interactions with them as well. So that's something that was really, really important to me. And we have such a great onshore team that was never an issue, but I think it's more of wanted my team to understand, you are super valuable to this team. You're not behind me, you're next to me, we're all in this together. And I think all of our managers function in that way and are always really quick to all the managers to take people on their team who are also offshore and put them in front of the whole company and say, look what they did and this is what they're doing, and they get a shout out for that. And I've gotten feedback that doesn't happen everywhere. So I think that that's huge. And we have very, very little turnover now that I think about it in our offshore team. I'm trying to think of anyone who's left us, but very, very uncommon. I'm happy to report that.
Yeah, that's great. I don't remember this, but when we first started that philosophical change in how we talked about our teammates international, we made it a real point to quit saying offshore, because we didn't want to put a stigma on them as we were communicating, oh, well, you're just quote unquote offshore or whatever. And we started calling them the ops team, the operational team,
Yes.
because they were so involved with our operations. Now that's kind of gone away because the team has expanded and so many of those positions are client facing. They're not in operations. They're in different parts of our firm. So to that point, from a reporting structure standpoint, and you can build on this as I'm talking about it, Robin, but we have on our intake team, we have our teammates in the Philippines. So they're the first point of contact for clients that are calling in. We have legal assistants that are working directly with current clients and with the lawyers and with the paralegals, all interfacing and working together.
Yeah.
We have executive assistant type roles, chief of staff type roles that are like, for example, my assistant, Rain, she's like I described her as kind of my chief of staff. My personal assistant does everything for me. So she's interfacing not only with clients occasionally, but also with obviously everyone on our team internationally as well as domestically, and third-party partners and vendors that are outside of our practice. So she's touching all aspects of our entire firm. She also runs our social media for me. She does so much. And so there's a difference there. So from a reporting structure standpoint, all of these different roles report up through different departments, right? So describe, if you would, how we go about integrating these teammates in the reporting structure. Do you use job descriptions with them? Kind of build that out for us.
Yes, we do. I'm glad you brought that up because as we went through that transition too, they were at one point kind of more of a team of offshore people, but now we have integrated them into their teams. So they're not like just the offshore team. They are the intake team, they're the legal team, the team growth or HR team, they're the finance team. So, and we do still have some people working on the operations team who just do some reporting and other work as well. So what we've done is really change that structure. So they do report up to that particular manager of that particular team, just as everybody else does who's here onshore as well. And so they're side by side, really partnering with those groups of people and going, to huddles and things like that and hearing the same information at the same time. So there's not a separation there. We really do look at them as one team. They might be made up of offshore and onshore people, but they're the finance team or the intake team.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's another point. I forgot about the finance team as well. I know early on we paid through PayPal, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we have since found some better platforms to do that. What do we use today?
Yeah, so we're using Deal today. PayPal had a lot of issues. It was trouble. And we just had some difficulty with it that was causing delay in pay. It's just the way Paycor functions internally, and that it was hard. There was a waiting period when we add a new person and they were just waiting too long to get paid and just some issues. So now we're using Deal.
How do you spell that? Because you're saying D-E-A-L.
D-E-E-L, yeah.
Okay, so that's our platform, and Paycor is just our HR support platform, right?
Yeah, so that will take into account the difference in currency and remedy that. And then also another platform that we don't use for payroll, but another platform that we've used for other things is called Wise. And that's been something that works really well too. It's a little complicated on the front end. You just have to get a lot of information, but that is also something that we found successful, especially when it comes to the Philippines. That works well in that area.
What does that do?
It's kind of like a PayPal. For a payroll, Deal would be more of the way to go. Like if you wanted to, if it was like you're sending a Christmas bonus or something like that, like Wise would be kind of a one-off platform that is very user-friendly.
Got it. Okay. And it's W-I-S-E? Is that the name? Okay. Got it. Are there other tools that you utilize to support our international teammates?
Yeah, really, just some internal tools that we've created. We have created our own time card and just trying to make things easy. There's different tools that you can use for punching. We can't use our onshore time clock because we have to keep a separation there because of our US benefits. And what we're set up with Paycor, at one time they were talking about being able to add like offshore team members to it that wouldn't be integrated into every, US benefit and things like that. That is of no relevance to that situation. But We've kind of have created our own where we need one. There's other tools too. There's Clockify, which can be used as a time clock. I think you could do a free or a paid subscription to that. But one thing that we've just done is a Google link. So we have shared that link out, and it just functions as a time clock. They can punch in, punch out by, clicking in a box, and then it just pours into a database on the back end, and then we can send that time over to the managers for final approval. But other than that, those are basically the tools that we're using to track time and to pay.
Okay. How do we handle benefits with our international team?
Yeah, so they do get time off. So whenever we are closed, they, have that holiday as well. And then we also have time off it mirrors our onshore team in the same roles. So they have a bank of PTO that they can draw from, and it resets every year.
Okay. And what about medical and retirement benefits, things like that?
Yeah, that's something that we don't do. That's something that as an independent contractor that they'll take care of on their own. Their taxes, any retirement, any insurance benefits. I have had conversations with my partners who are with Athena, and although they get benefits through Athena, there are benefits that they can go out and get on their own if need be.
Yeah. I know we've engaged a lawyer over there to kind of work through making sure we're crossing all of the T's and dotting the I's on that sort of detail on stuff.
Yes.
And then with respect to termination, whenever it's time to separate from a teammate, how do you go about doing that when it's an international teammate?
Yeah. So first and foremost is being sure that we're compliant with everything as far as notice, what gets paid, what doesn't get paid, and those types of things. So we're very mindful of that, really clear communication. One of the most important checks outside of, whatever's going on with that person would be to be sure that we're compliant. So depending on what area we're in, are there any laws that we need to be mindful of as we navigate that? But then we handle it similar to what we do with an onshore. We meet with them, document it, send them, give them any follow-up information, what's going to happen next. Be sure, like when they know their last pay date is, do they have an outstanding invoice that they need to invoice us for, and just that they're really clear what benefits are and aren't available to them, especially with their really formal status as an independent contractor, that they're responsible for their taxes and all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. I see. With respect to the termination process as you go through, you talked about making sure we're compliant. Like, how do you know the Philippine rules on terminations? Like, what do you do for that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is my partners who are there. And the other one would also be if there are specific questions, especially a region specific question. Like you had said, we did an initial kind of sweep of everything with an employment attorney there. And then also I rely very, very heavily on SHRM and the experts there, and will call upon them often to be sure. I very recently went through some conversations with an expert on this matter at SHRM, which was available to me as a member, and walked through any questions about just what's paid, severance, things like that. And after talking with them, and that's usually an ongoing conversation, like a phone call, and then follow-up information and follow-up emails with additional questions as well. So SHRM has been a really good resource when it comes to that and their expertise, because sometimes it can be such a region-specific question that I'm big on just making sure that everything is compliant and as it should be. So I will not hesitate to call on any resources needed, above and beyond anything, just to be sure that we have everything covered.
Yeah. I know we also do severance as well whenever we do those terminations when it's not a for cause or something like that. Anything else on the managing side of things that we haven't covered?
Yeah, I think just kind of in day-to-day management, I think something that we're all mindful of is their schedules, just recognizing what day of the week it is for the people of our Philippine team. And because our Friday is kind of going into their Saturday, and just being mindful of holidays. And I think just to recognize that's a completely different culture. And I've learned a lot from working with Ange and Katie. I've learned a lot about their culture. And I appreciate it. They've taught me some language. And just having fun with that and just sharing that, and just the appreciation of who they are and where they are. I think that's really important. Even above and beyond, being sure that, you've got all the tactical things taken care of, but they're such great people, and it's such an opportunity to get to learn about a different culture, and just to meet some really phenomenal people and learn about who they are in their lives. It's amazing. I feel really fortunate and really blessed to be able to work with them and share those experiences. Even as far apart as we are, I feel like they're a text message away. Like it's just so fun to have those relationships.
Yes, it is. It's really, really rewarding. Well, thank you, Robin, for coming on today and talking about the third part of building our firm with our international teammates. It's been really enlightening.
Thank you. Thanks so much.